Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and in today's video we're going to be going over a 2020 Toyota CHR in the XLE trim package. And this one's super interesting just with some of the stuff that's happening on the outside, and then the interior on this car is ridiculous, so I'm excited to show you guys. But that all being said, a huge shout out and thank you to the Larry H. Miller Toyota here in Murray, Utah for providing us with the CHR. Check out their inventory in the link below if you're in the market for a new Toyota. Let's get into the video. Under the hood here, we have a 2-liter 4-cylinder that goes through a CVT automatic transmission. Fuel economy is 27 around town and then 31 on the highway, with power outputs being 144 horsepower and then 139 pound-feet of torque. Now let's go over the front end of the CHR, and there's actually a little B on the hood there, but this is finished in Blizzard Pearl, and I love this color. It's just kind of like this white with the crystal effect, and it looks so fantastic here in the direct sunlight. But coming down, we actually do get full LED lights, which is definitely a premium option, especially for an SUV at this price point. And you got a little Toyota logo there that also doubles as a sensor. And then other than that, the front end is pretty sporty looking. Actually, you got some like vents in this little area, and then this kind of comes off to look like a front splitter. Definitely has this like aggressive look, and they make the fenders a little bit wider. So again, it kind of leads to that like aggressive look, and I would not be surprised if someone has not already like lowered one of these. Coming around the side here, we've got two 25mm tires on 18-inch rims in the front and in the rear as well. And then in terms of the design on the rims, they kind of do this like crazy design with all these silver inserts over the actual black rim itself, and I think it's really cool. It kind of makes it look like these sharp blade edges. Just definitely a really good aesthetic appearance. And they got the fender flares that come all the way down and then across the bottom of the vehicle to the back. And then here's your full view on the CHR, and you notice that door handle in the rear, which we'll go over later, but yeah, it looks good from the side. Here is what the key fob looks like on the CHR. It's got the Toyota logo on the back. It's just like all of Toyota's other key fobs. Now it has only a couple functions other than the little panic button, and that's the unlock and lock function. Sadly, there is no remote start with the CHR, but we do have a rear hatch to pop into. So the button's right here. It's actually right next to the backup camera, but opening it up actually has a pretty decent rear hatch for how small this SUV crossover hatchback thing is. But you do have a little mat here that says CHR, and then just underneath the mat, if I can manage to pick it up, you can see the loading floor just beneath that, and you can't even pick that up, and that's where they store the spare tire. So it's in the trunk, not under the car. And then we do get this cargo cover in the back. Obviously we gotta make that look all nice and pretty, but other than that, things are pretty simple. You can see the cargo area, it's not the most deep, if that makes sense. It's kind of shallow, but it's a decent amount of space. And then when you are done, there's this little area where you can grab into, but it's easier to grab the top of the tailgate and then throw it down. Now let's go over things in the rear of the CHR. First things first, is that spoiler is ridiculous on a little crossover like this. I just think it looks funny. You got all the regular badging on the back, and then you can see the little bumper set up there in the rear. Just very interesting. There's so much going on in the back here. The only thing that I wish is that these were LEDs, because if these were full LEDs that came around, I think that looks so cool. It's kind of interesting that they did LEDs in the front, but they didn't do them in the rear. But regardless of that, yeah, it's kind of crazy looking in the back, especially with that spoiler. And then also the fact that this one has the black roof, so it kind of like cuts the car in half. This is one of the most interesting door handle situations ever. I mean, you can see it on that side, and by the way, it is on the other side as well. It's the same little setup, but yeah, it's weird. I mean, the door handles, first off, it's at the top, and then it's just, I don't know, it's interesting. But this is where the stuff gets kind of more exciting, but the front's way more exciting. So you have this like kind of, I don't know how to explain, it's kind of like hard touch plastic, but they do that interesting design on it, and they have this soft touch down here. But this is the cool part, is the seats. So sadly the seats, or the seat belts, aren't blue, but the seats themselves are blue. It's a really cool look, and they got kind of like that quilted cloth in the center right there. Sadly we don't get an armrest and cup holders, no ventilation in the rear, but I will pop in the back for you guys so I can talk about legroom, because I do have the seat where I would normally have it at. So here's what my legroom looks like, and if you aren't familiar with me, I'm about 5'11", and then headroom, it's relatively good. I mean, I got a couple more inches above me, so I feel like someone that was bigger than me could definitely fit in here pretty comfortably. Now let's go into the front. One touch to lock it, and the mirrors are actually power folding, which I think is cool at this price point. Hold it again, the mirrors will pop back out, and then this does come with the blind spot monitoring, which is a neat little touch. Now opening it up, this is the fun part, is the interior. I love the interior on this. We got more of that plastic here. You actually get the leather padding here, which is nice so you're gonna rest your arm. Definitely nicer than what's in the rear. And then more of the plastic down below. Now we do get this blue trim, and it kind of goes all throughout, and then it connects with this part in the interior, which it's this like giant blue line throughout the interior. Now here are these seats in the front. They definitely look different from the ones in the rear. You've got kind of more of that quilted design, and then you have the stitching throughout, and you do get that piping as well. Now the seats are manually adjustable, as you can see. We have the pedal layout down below, and then you got the little button for like the gas cap and then your lights. Steering wheel is going to be manually adjustable. But here's one more look before we actually pop into this blue interior. Start up the CHR. We're just going to press that, and here's the little gauge cluster animation. It actually shows you a little CHR on the side, which I think is cool. They make that model specific, but that beep is a little bit annoying. And then the touchscreen, just like all of the other ones on Toyotas. Now, we are going to zoom out, and here's a full look at the steering wheel in the CHR. It's pretty interesting. So you've got all of your radio controls, like the center stack, and this is your lane departure assistance. This is for your forward collision assistance. That's not too crazy. Cruise control as well. The interesting part is they kind of have like a mix. So you've got like this piano black trim, but then you have like the leather trim on the outside, and it's kind of like mixed in between. It's a weird feeling when you grab onto the steering wheel. Definitely not used to that. Phone controls and voice commands over here, and then it does have nice stitching. Light controls on that side, and then the other side is going to be the windshield wiper stock control. Now the gauges, you can see that faint little look of blue. They continue that into the gauge cluster as well. And then this little center stack is just like all of the other Toyotas, where it shows you different bits of information on it. So like shows you your range, all that kind of stuff. So basically it's just for more information on the car, and it even shows you your drive modes. So there are a couple different drive modes on the car, which you can basically go through, but you have to just select it through here. There's no like other button, so it's not like a shortcut. You have to go into this infotainment system, or not infotainment system, the center stack, and then you have to select a drive mode. So it's not as simple as what it is in other vehicles. Here is the center stack. Now if we pop it into reverse, the backup camera will pop up, and it's got that little trajectory line to help out, and I feel like resolution is actually really good on it. Now, if the rest of the infotainment system, it is just like Toyota's other upgraded units. There's nothing that they've really changed on this one. It just doesn't have as many functions. You still get a little projection function. Touch response time on it is just like all the other ones, and hopefully I don't get copyright. Nope, we're good. But yeah, I mean, touch response time is good, and I think it's a good infotainment system overall, and it looks like this one's not equipped with navigation. Now here's kind of like the whole climate control area with a couple vents at the top. Notice that it does have a dual zone climate, which again at this price point I think is really solid. Now down below in this little area we do have a little USB there and some extra storage, but it's interesting on the shape with that. And then this cup holder, I mean, it's cool that they have a cup holder here, but then it's like right there, so you can only put like little coffee cups in that area. Now here's the shifter, and it has an interesting feel to it. It's got like the metal on the top, which obviously feels nice. But we do have a manual shift mode. There are no paddle shifters, but you just have to use this as kind of like a little bump stick when you are in the manual shift mode with the shifter. It does have a little electronic parking brake on it now, and then you do have the auto hold and then the stability control. Here's another cup holder that's actually usable. And then this, again, it's finished in the blue, which I think is neat. Now opening it up, there is a little 12-volt charging station in there. And then finally, we're going to show you the storage in the glove box, which regular glove box, nothing crazy. Well, I thought the weirdness stopped, but these lights even look different. Like everything about this is just, it's a weird car. And then on top of that, I just noticed these little things on the top. Like, I don't know what they're for. They just look interesting, and there's even one under the sun visor. Like, this is an interesting car. Now I just wanted to show you guys the blue lines and how it kind of like fully connects through the interior. It goes around the infotainment system, around here, and then it does stop in this area, but there is this blue on the top here, so I guess that kind of like continues it so that it goes pretty much all around the interior, which again, that's interesting. But let's talk about pricing. So this CHR and the XLE trim package with all the equipment that it has, stickers for about $25,000 for any type of market adjustment, which again, all the safety tech that it has and this crazy interior, I think it's pretty awesome. But let's take the CHR out and see how it drives. Let me quickly show all of you visibility before we set off here in the CHR. So there's your visibility over the hood, pretty much in the middle. Not the easiest, not the hardest to see out of. There's visibility through the mirror and the other mirror. Now this is the part that's a little bit more difficult because they do that crazy sloped roofline in the rear. It does impede visibility a little bit, but the windows are big enough that you can see it's pretty easy to see out of. And well, let's set off now. We are setting off here in the 2020 CHR XLE, and I guess first starting off, let's talk about the road noise and the ride quality. So far with the ride quality, it's really smooth. Let me go over a couple of these little bump things. Yeah, it's doing really well actually. It's very smooth on road. I'm actually pleasantly surprised. I expected this to not ride this smooth actually, so I'm really impressed with that. Now in terms of the noise, it's about average with tire noise, so it's right in the middle where it should be. Not too loud, not too quiet. So it's just kind of like I said, it's right where it normally is. I'm taking my first turn here, and the steering is very light. Now in terms of directness on this steering, I would put it at about average again. It's right in the middle where it should be. It's not super direct, but there is just a little bit of vagueness that's expected with a vehicle of this type. So right in the middle, but in terms of lightness, definitely a little bit more on the light side of things from a steering perspective. Now I have it over here in the sport mode for our acceleration. I actually am also going to put it into the manual shift mode. I mean, you guys heard the power figures. I wasn't expecting much out of it. It's okay. No, it's not quick by any means. And that sport mode, I mean, coming into the normal mode, the sport mode really doesn't feel any different from the normal mode. I'm kind of noticing that it pretty much drives all the same, which definitely super interesting. And I mean, I'm guessing really all the sport mode does is just hold the RPMs at a little bit higher amount, and I can even test that right now. Yeah, see, it's just holding the RPMs longer, so that's all the sport mode really does, is just hold the RPMs a little bit long, or I should say the gear a little bit longer, not the RPMs, but you have the RPMs a little bit higher in the sport mode. Now, let's actually sum things up on the 2020 CHR and what I think about this. I think this vehicle is actually pretty cool. I love the different... Now let's sum things up on the 2020 CHR, and I actually really like this vehicle. I think it's a cool, quirky, interesting vehicle, and yeah, if you want definitely like a weird interior, this is definitely the one to go for. This kind of like neon blue, but it's just it's an interesting car. I think the price point's solid. My only thing is actually not with the power, it's just with the driveline. Now this is front wheel drive. I wish that Toyota would just make all-wheel drive standard. I understand that the front wheel drive is going to get a little bit better gas mileage, and it's going to help keep the cost down a little bit, but I'm sure that Toyota could figure out something to keep the cost at a reasonable amount and give all-wheel drive. And yeah, it will make the fuel economy suffer a little bit, but most people nowadays, they want all-wheel drive over a little decrease in fuel economy, especially with how cheap gas is. And yeah, that's all I have to say on the 2020 CHR. If you're wanting a weird, quirky vehicle, this is definitely a weird, quirky vehicle. And there we have it, everyone, the 2020 Toyota CHR in the XLE trim package. And again, a huge shout out and thank you to Larry Miller Toyota here in Murray for providing us with the CHR. Check out their inventory in the link below. If you're shopping for the first time, please subscribe, and then I will see all of you in that next video.